What do we do when we experience a setback in our recovery or an increase in symptoms? This can be incredibly frustrating. I'd like to talk a little bit about capacity and also the emotional component that arises on our journey of recovery. So we often experience flares or setbacks on our journey because we are exceeding our capacity. Now, we all have an individual capacity, and our capacity is changing all the time. And when we're working towards recovery, what we're actually trying to do is increase our capacity for health. So I liken this to my journey when I was recovering from a complex condition, and there were so many times when I had a setback or I had a flare in symptoms. And looking back and working in the field that I do now, I can see that almost all of these flares were due to me exceeding my capacity. The time that I connect most to this subject is when I was just out of hospital and having a really hard time just to walk. So just to walk up the hall was painful and exhausting, and just to walk to the side of the curb to get picked up to go to hours of rehab, of physio and hydro, was exhausting and would trigger me into states of pain and also breathlessness. And I kept pushing past, like I would reach my capacity and I would reach that state where the pain cycle activated and my breathing would become labored, and I would keep going. And when we exceed our capacity, what's actually happening in the body is that our body starts to say, danger, 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 this is too much. And what we really need to do is listen to that danger response and come back to a state of rest or some state where we can start to feel a little bit safer. Because when we can help our body feel safe, that's actually when recovery can start to occur. When we push into and through the danger response, we're effectively saying to our body, screw you, I don't care if you're having a hard time, I'm going to drive you further into that hard time. And so it can kind of make it a little impossible for the body to start to feel safe and to recalibrate and for our capacity to expand. So when we can start to acknowledge, oh yeah, 20 steps is okay for me today, but 21 steps is sending me into pain activation or causing me trouble breathing, then we can actually start to go, okay, I hear you, body. Let me give you a little break. And so it wasn't until I started to acknowledge and honor my capacity that I started to make a change. My body needed to rest, not to be pushed. And we can take this concept into mental health as well, particularly with anxiety. So anxiety is often triggered by something relational, so by certain people or interactions or places or events. And we tend to want to be able to deal with it. So we push past what feels safe. We might start to feel anxious, but be like, oh, well, I've got to deal with this, so I'm just going to do it. And thereby getting more and more and more anxious and making it harder to calm down again. So if we start to consider our capacity and to work with it rather than push through and beyond it, we can make a change. Something else that I had to consider for my own journey of recovery, and that we explore with my clients at the clinic, is the emotional aspect of why are we pushing past our capacity in the first place. It's a bit like an inability to be okay with wherever we're at. So I'm here in my health journey, but I want to go there. Where I am now, it's not okay. It's not good enough. And that feeling, it's not good enough, is actually the organizing principle that is at play when we keep pushing beyond our capacity. An organizing belief or an organizing principle or a core belief is usually developed during our formative years through attachment relationships. And we can have these organizing principles or beliefs because we've experienced trauma, but we can also just have them because of an unconscious pattern that has emerged while our brain and our relating principles are organizing. So it could be something as simple as a father that encouraged you to study and do better and better and better. I'm not good enough. I've got to go better. I've got to do better. Or it could be having a mother that needed a lot of love and attention, or she wasn't super nice to you. Oh, I've got to do better. I've got to do better to make mum be okay, to get her love, to make sure things are all right in the home. And these are not traumatic events, but they are relating patterns that develop. And often in complex illness, I know for myself, and I see in clients, it is this organizing or relating principle that then comes into play in relationship to the self and in relationship to the illness. So working with this very, very deep principle can be helpful. There is something that connects to that and goes a little deeper, which I think is often, dare I say it, self-hatred and anger. And I definitely experienced that. I was so mad at my body when I was sick for not being good enough and not being well and not being able to keep up with my amazing mind. I was pissed at my body, and so I kept pushing it. It's almost a punishment. In fact, when we push beyond our capacity knowingly, there is an element of self-harm in there. So I think that's something very big to work with, to understand and express the anger that we have. And usually the anger that we have towards our bodies or in relation to our illness also can link back to a much earlier experience. So exploring the origins of that can be really important. Something else I want to touch on is staying in the good space. So when we are recovering, there'll often be a period where, oh wow, my symptoms are so much better right now and I'm feeling good. And something that we can tend to do if we do have these organizing principles is to not allow ourselves to sit with a good space. We will push ourselves, oh, I'm feeling good today, so instead of doing exercises 1 to 10 or engaging with 1, 2, 3 people, I'm going to do 5 more. And there is something deeper to explore there, I feel, because it's kind of like once we're feeling a little bit better, it's as if we've got to make up for all of the times that we didn't do good enough. So again, it's this very self-harming belief system that's at play. And so I think if we can start to address the beliefs that are at play when we push through capacity and when we try to do more and more and more, you can feel, right, the energy when I'm talking, it's a little bit aggressive. It's not so compassionate and loving. And when our bodies are sick and when we're going through mental health issues, what we really need is someone to care for us and to be patient with us and to support us to rest and be nourished. And when we're not doing that for ourselves on a very unconscious level, it's going to be very, very hard to recover. So I guess for anybody that is currently experiencing a setback in their health, I'd like to suggest, hey, where are you at in your capacity and can you work within your capacity? And if you can't, if you're not able to stay there, what is it that's pushing you forward? Do you feel not okay to stay there, and why? And are you expressing anger towards yourself doing this? So this is something to go into in self-inquiry. I think if we can come to a space where we are honouring and acknowledging our capacity and moving with what is safe for our body or for our mind or for our relating capacity, we can start to make a pretty big change.